Bizarre Brain Comics. Hello, my comic book friends and fiends. Welcome to Bizarre Brain Comics. I'm Gary, your host, and I'm sitting in for the Dark Librarian. We still got some construction going on in the house right now, so the Dark Librarian isn't very good with visitors. And this time, well, first of all, this is where I like to take a look at some older comics, talk a little bit about the characters and creators, and examine the stories and the art. So this time, what we're going to take a look at is Baron Weirwulfs Haunted Library, number 72 from 1984, Charlton Comics. Okay, and Haunted Library is a horror anthology comic series from Charlton Comics from 1971 to 1984 for a total of 75 issues. And it was primarily reprints from 1978 on. Originally it was hosted by Impy, a diminutive ghost, and I don't think I have any with Impy. But with issue 21, Baron Weirwulf, who had first appeared in Ghost Manor number 19 in 74, he took over the title changed to Baron Weirwulfs Haunted Library, though it was still identified as Haunted in the Indicia on the front page, and also you can see here across the top bar. So I guess that makes the official title Haunted, but it might have been a little bit of expense to change it. The title featured the work of a whole host of creators who also produced material for the sister Charlton Horror Comics. And there were a bunch of them. And they did a commendable job, not the publishers so much as the creators did a very commendable job of producing the stories for these horror titles, as well as most of the other Charlton titles at that time. Now this issue, as I said there, from 78 on, it was primarily a reprint title, and this is case in point, because it's got 3 stories in it. All 3 stories are reprints from other titles, including the horror hosts. Because although it's Baron Weirwulf's Haunted Library, Baron Weirwulf only appears in the corner box. And of course, Charlton was known for being cheap, using the cheapest paper, printing, and binding. And quite often they would have problems with the binding, with the trimming of the paper. I can't remember if it's this one or a different book that I recently looked at that had the very rough edges of some of the pages. And they did have problems with the binding on this. Is that if you can see here, the staples were off center, and instead of being in the spine, they're just off center, which kind of throws everything off just a little bit. So here we have some real nice things here. Here on the cover we see, "Can't you see the things in the subway? Can't you see them?" This terrified guy running down the subway tracks. Okay, and we'll take a look at our first story, which is Mr. Blank. And you can see here that the host telling the story is Winnie the Witch, and that's her right there. I've forgotten what title she was in, but and I have no way of knowing who the there's no credits on this story, so it was probably originally from the 60s. There it is on the side. I couldn't see it on the spine. In the Abel and Cuddy. Oh, Nicola Cuddy was the writer, and presumably Jack Abel was the artist. But it looks like some early Jim Aparo stuff. So maybe Abel contributed to the writing, or maybe he did the inking. But otherwise, it looks a lot like early Jim Aparo. So here, Jack Spaulding, artist agent, and this guy walks in, all bundled up in his coat and hat, and his face is all bandaged up like the unknown soldier, except he has no eye slots or mouth hole or anything, and looks like a mummy. He walks in, and he wants an artist, as one particular artist, to make him a new face. Goes to see her. She's a sculptress, and then he takes it off. That reveals that he was born this way. Look at that. He has no face. That's why he's called Mr. Blank. He has no face, no eyes, no mouth, no nose, and said he's always had to be fed intravenously, but somehow he can breathe, and he can speak, and he can see, and describes how just something weird, and that's the weird thing. This is why the latter part of this story kind of falls down a little bit. And I guess he has no fingerprints either. He's just all a blank. And he was working with someone else who was going to create him an older man who was his kind of his mentor, and was going to create a face for him, but he died beforehand. That's why he sought this lady out. And so he leaves. He says she'll work on some stuff and get back with him in the morning. They'll start, and the agent Spaulding, then he comes on with the lady. They're having an illicit affair, and he is married, but she doesn't want to have anything anymore to do with him because she's married. You're still married. And we get a flashback to arguments with his wife and stuff over her, because she won't give him a divorce. And here Winnie pops up again. So next day she's working on him, get a kind of hair he might like. He's got this wig and stuff. And he talks to Mr. Blank, says, and he convinces him to kill his wife for him, or he won't get the face that he wants. So he goes ahead, he sets the whole thing up, he gets into the house while he's gone, or the hotel, because she's out of town, and suffocates her. And he's horrified, and he reports back to the Spaulding, and then Spaulding shoots him and takes him down to the basement and buries him. See, this is where, it just kind of went off the rails. Totally odd. Buries him in the basement. So he goes back to see his lady love, the artist, and says, "Well, Mr. Blank, he just couldn't. He just cut out. Didn't want to finish the project." Well, she said, "Oh, that's unfortunate, because I already started, with him." And they said, "Oh yeah, he doesn't have any. I'd already started. He doesn't have any fingerprints, but I gave him some. Gave him fingerprints, because that's one of the reasons he saw him, because he's a blank. He has no face, no fingerprints, nothing to tie anything to him, but he was still a loose end. But I gave him your fingerprints, which I found in your office." And then we see that's because he killed the man, and he's just established that he was the murderer. But this is the good story. The things in the subway. Nicola Cuddy, writer, and Joe Stanton is art, and this very crowded cityscape here, because the overcrowding is part of the thing. He did a really great job. And this is the style. This is early Joe Stanton, and this is Dr. Graves telling. No. Yes, Dr. Graves telling this story, and but he. I really like the Joe Stanton's style from this time period the best. He's quite a capable artist, and I still like his work. But this is the style and stylization that he worked with that I liked best. In the crowded city, the guy Louis, who runs a bookstore of some kind, rushing home, and everyone's rushing to get it to the subway, and some guy shoves him aside and smacks his head on the wall, and he's kind of dizzy. And the guy is not a very, very likable guy anyway. But this lovely red-headed lady who bears a striking resemblance to Nova Kane from E-Man. She says she's a nurse. Later she admits she's actually a nursing student. Asks if he can help. No, I'm all right. And they get on the train. They're sitting next to each other. And then suddenly he starts seeing stuff, these weird monsters. Nobody's scared but me. Where'd they come from? And she says, "You sure you're okay?" Because she happens to be sitting right next to him. "You sure you're okay?" And because he's acting weird that nobody else can see them. And he asks her about it. Can you see those things? And he said, no. And no one else sees them too. And he's horrified. He rushes up to the train operator, pulls him out of the cabin, which back then maybe they had access. They don't anymore. Screeches on the brakes, and then he rushes out screaming, they're going to get me, and he runs out. What the heck? So he rushes out, and he goes to the bar. He was going to go to the bar anyway, but he rushes to a bar near his home. And here our lovely red-headed lady pops up again, and they get to talking and say, "Are you sure you're okay? Because you had a nasty knock. You might have a concussion," and stuff. And he apologizes for being rude to her and stuff. And he says, "You want to get something to eat?" And it's not a regular date. And so here, Dr. Graves pops in, making his comments as he's narrating the story. And he winds up taking her to his tiny little apartment. Says, "I don't like to eat out that much, but I'm a good cook." And he fixes something. She says, "Oh, that's delicious. You having a good meal." And then he says, "They must be mole people. They may have cities down there. It's a shame they don't. You don't believe me, Linda." Linda, that's her name. Says, "I do believe you, Louis. Those things you saw were beasts of burden, our slaves. We mole people are quite human in appearance." She goes, "No." She opens the door, and there the monsters come in, and they toss him out the window. Says, "Poor Louis." But as he said, they can't stay hidden forever when you ride the subways. Keep your eyes open. Well, actually, no one would have believed him anyway, so it didn't matter. She didn't have to kill him. And then have a page on the witch's curse. And then is the curse of the hanging man. And this is being told by Mr. Bones. And Mr. Bones is obviously, if you're familiar, designed by Pat Boyette, because he's got that look, even though this Pat Boyette didn't write this. And it says Stanton and Nick, so that would have been Joe Stanton and Nicola Cuddy, but the artwork looks like Wayne Howard, and I love Wayne Howard's work, and it has a strong resemblance to Wally Wood's work. And it says Stanton and Nick. Maybe they wrote it together, or maybe Stanton did the inks, but Nick undoubtedly wrote it. And it starts in Elizabethan England with this duke who accuses this gypsy fellow, what we now know as the Romany, of stealing some horses and has him hanged. But he places a curse on him before he is king, and it'll a curse that will go down his family line on him and his children and his grandchildren, etc. So there he is. The Duke later is completely forgotten about the hanged man, and something happens, and he is frightened to death down in the wine cellar. So you can see the lovely ladies, reminiscent of Wally Wood's work. And then his son also shortly after he's married, comes to a curious and unnatural end, and the same thing with another one. On down the line, they are killed down to modern times. The last of his descendants, over 400 years, in the castle that he has inherited. He's about to get married. He wants to go. Leave the place, get married, and leave the place because he is concerned about the curse, about everyone who has died. And she says, "No, no, no." She insists. So they do get married, and they go to live in the house. And then the ghost of the hanged man appears, and he's going to destroy the man. When suddenly, whoosh, the young lady she stops the ghost and says, "I can invoke the powers of witchcraft," etc. And she banishes the ghost, boom, saving her husband. Says, "You had a nightmare, darling. You'll never have it again." Oh, that's nice. I like that one. Those two were much better than that first story. So I do want to thank you for joining me. Please like, share, and subscribe. Do leave your comments down below. Tell me what you think of Charlton Comics and Baron Weirwulfs Haunted Library, or any of the other spooky Charlton horror comics from the Bronze Age, or any other comments that you might have. And I do want to remind you all that comics are art.